The world we see merely reflects our own internal frame of reference, the dominant ideas, wishes, and emotions in our minds. Projection makes perception. We look inside first, decide the kind of world we want to see, and then project that world outside, making it the truth as we see it.
The purpose is to awaken from the dream. And the dream of bodies is just a shadow of the dream of guilt that's in the mind.
The tiny, mad idea of separation. In this cosmic instant of seeming individuality, and no matter how attractive you may think individuality is, it is nothing but separation. There seems to be a tiny aspect of Christ that is now aware of something else. That is duality. Now, instead of oneness, you have two-ness. Before, there was the perfect oneness of heaven and nothing else. That is non-duality, or non-two-ness. That is still reality. There is not really more than one thing, but now something different seems to be going on for you. There seems to be God and something else. That is the illusion of duality. And the world of multiplicity and the endless subjects and objects you perceive in it are merely symbolic of separation. While you may still try to create, you cannot really create without the power of God. So everything you make eventually falls apart.
Oh my God!
Each time a baby appears to be born into this world, it is merely reliving the time when it seemed to leave its perfect environment, in God, where all was nirvana, and it was completely taken care of and provided for, and then suddenly found itself slapped in the face by a seeming reality that was a living hell by comparison. You may think of birth as a miracle, but babies don't come into this world smiling, do they?
The purpose of this course is to help you leave the world voluntarily, just as the ego had to convince us, right at the beginning, to leave the mind. And it did this by telling us, it lied, but it told us, and we believed it, that the mind was a very dangerous place. So it gave us a motivation by making up this very tall tale of sin, guilt, and fear. It gave us the motivation to leave the mind by our believing if we stayed in the mind, we would be most unhappy. Because this raging, maniacal, insane God would wreak vengeance on us and destroy us.
My father said that one day, if man continued in his ways, the Creator would annihilate this world.
So the ego was a very good teacher. Insane, but very good teacher. It knew it had to motivate us. So it motivated us to leave the mind and make up a world by teaching us the mind would make us very unhappy. Well, Jesus does the very same thing. Except his lesson is sane. He now has to motivate us to undo the ego's motivation. He has to teach us staying in the body, in the world, will kill us and make us very, very unhappy. And returning to the mind will bring us real joy. The problem is we still believe the ego. So we're still motivated to flee our mind and live in the world, and the ego says, okay, we're here, now let's make it a better place. This course does not have as its purpose to make the world a better place. Unlike the Bible, it does not seek to make a new Jerusalem here on earth. It does not seek to blend together heaven and earth and bring heaven on earth. You can't integrate two mutually exclusive realms, heaven and earth. So Jesus has to motivate us to look again at this world and the body. But we are so tempted to set that aside and say, well, he doesn't really mean it that way. He just means the way we perceive the world is wrong. Wrong. Doesn't mean that. The world is wrong because it was made to be a defense against what is right, which is the atonement principle in our mind. You must understand that, otherwise your work with this course will be very severely limited. You will put a very tight band around it, so it will only say what you want it to say, which is how I can live better in this world than in this body. I want to feel better in this body. Jesus is telling you, you can't feel better in a body. There is no body. But let me help you feel better in the mind by teaching you that the ego lied to you. The mind is not a dangerous place. There is no wrathful, venomous God hell-bent on destroying
the
you.
innocent, when the Creator sends his deluge to wipe out the wicked from this world.
There is no sinful, guilty, vicious, evil person named you in your mind. The whole thing is made up. The mind is the only thing that could save you because it was the mind was the only thing that damned you. So, but Jesus has to motivate us. He has to get us to want to learn his course. So again, that's why passages like this are here. So that we won't be tempted to try to drag him into the world and make the world a better place again.
The mind that is relieving the seeming separation has actually fallen asleep and is dreaming an idle, insignificant dream or nightmare.
We're pretending to take a nap, just like Alice.
Because anything that seemed to be apart from heaven would have to be symbolic of an opposite to heaven. It would thus seem to include opposite characteristics. Once again, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. We still have some explaining to do about your development from a seemingly separate mind into a universe of bodies, and why it feels so real to you and appears to be. You must be shown the way out of this experience. Your asleep at the wheel mind doesn't know it, but it's going to wake up in the equivalent of a cosmic instant. That is because the voice for God and heaven, which we will refer to as the Holy Spirit,
You stay out of this, Glinda, or I'll fix you as well. Oh, rubbish. You have no power here.
is still with you to remind you of the truth and call you to return. This fail-safe memory of what you really are can never be lost, making an awareness to the reality of heaven completely inevitable. However, this memory can be seemingly delayed by unwise choices in the dream. Unwise choices have been made by you all along. You have the power to choose the memory and strength of God or something else instead. And if you really examine your thoughts, you will find that you're usually choosing something else instead. That is what the part of your mind that chooses did immediately after the seeming separation. Out of shock, fear, and confusion, it made a series of unwise choices that resulted in you appearing to be here.
Why were you born?
You still don't realize that given the awesome power of the mind, certain choices made by you could end the seeming separation, and could have at any time.
There's no place like home.